Hey guys, it's Celeste here from Hexen Arcane, and I'm here to talk about a true crime case. Today I'm going to talk about the disappearance and murder of Deidre Christine Harm. This is a case that has really stuck with me and kind of haunted me in a way. I followed it really closely at the time, partly because I somehow felt a connection to Deidre and related to her in so many ways. I checked every day for updates and wondered if she would be found when she first disappeared and hoped that she would be found alive. I kind of lost track of the case for years after that with no new updates and the case seemingly growing cold. But it never really left my mind, so years later I looked it up to see if there was any new information, leads, or just to kind of reconnect with it. I live in Wisconsin, so in 2006, this was all over the local news, and there were updates at the time, and seeing her picture all the time really made me feel for her, worry about her, and connect with her. So this takes place in 2006 when the 21-year-old mother of a 4-month-old baby went missing after a night out with her friends in Wisconsin Rapids. She was described by her friends as fun, bubbly, and a free spirit who was a devoted mother, and she'd just gotten her own apartment in Wisconsin Rapids for her and her baby, and she was really happy and really excited about this big step in her life. The night Deidre went missing was June 10th, 2006. I'm sure she was so excited to get a night out with her friends after having a baby. That night, she got a babysitter and went to a couple bars with her friends. Specifically, the Body Shop and the Finish Line are named as bars she went to. The night she went out, she was dancing at the bars and having a really good time. She was there with a friend who eventually wanted to head home, but Deidre wasn't ready to call it a night yet, so she decided to stay out later by herself. It wasn't until the next morning when the babysitter called that her friends realized that she hadn't picked up her child and hadn't made it to work that day. She was reported missing, and the search was on for the young mother. Wisconsin Rapids is not a large town. It only has about 18,000 people in it, so this was quite unexpected for her to just disappear. Her friends and the father of her child were questioned, but their alibis all checked out. However, the friend who left her at the bar was able to say that Deidre was talking to a man before he left her there. She was seen leaving with this man and then seemingly vanished without a trace. According to her friends and family, Deidre was happy in her life and her daughter meant everything to her. There is no way that she would have just left on her own volition. She would just not have abandoned her daughter. She would not have just left her life. She just put her deposit and got the keys on an apartment. She wouldn't have just walked out all of a sudden. So then it took 5 months for her body to be found, and it's still officially considered an unsolved case. Hunters ended up finding the skeletal remains in the town of Seneca. The cause of death was undetermined after an autopsy because of the condition that her bones were found in. Her head was found in one area and the rest of her body was found around a quarter mile away. There were signs of trauma, but it couldn't be determined if this happened before or after death, so really the skeleton didn't give too much information. They didn't know if any damage done was the cause of animals or if it had been the cause of her death. The only person of interest in this case has also died since then, so while there is some hope that someday someone will come forward with some help or details, we don't know if this will ever officially be solved. Deidre's friend and the other patrons at the bar were able to give enough details about the man Deidre was last seen with to create a sketch. After the autopsy and the sketch were created, there were no new leads for a long time, and the case went cold until 2009, when the police chief of Wisconsin Rapids said they received a tip pointing them in the direction of 36-year-old Christopher Revac, who was a Wisconsin Rapids native who later moved to Missouri. He He seemed to match the description of the person that Deidre was seen leaving the bar with that night she disappeared, and Rivek was a suspect in another missing person case in Missouri. However, records show that Rivek was in Wisconsin Rapids when Deidre went missing, so at the time when she was missing, he was still living in Wisconsin Rapids. Unfortunately, Rivek committed suicide while in custody in Missouri before investigators were able to speak with him regarding Deidre harm. So in the other case, he was suspected and he was arrested, but then he committed suicide. In researching more about this case, I found surprisingly little about it and about Deidre. It was featured in part of an investigation discovery series called Dead of Night that aired in 2018 and mentioned Christopher Rivek in connection to Deidre and the other woman he was suspected of killing. It is suspected that he was a serial killer as well and possibly connected to the murders of up to 4 women. However, since he's dead, I'm not sure we'll ever know. He was arrested in Douglas County, Missouri in 2009 and hanged himself very shortly after that. The focus of the ID Channel episode centers on the link between the 2 women who disappeared and the connection that both of them had to Christopher Rivek. However, he was never officially implicated or charged with the murder of Deidre Harm. If you want to watch the ID Channel episode, they talk more about Christopher Rivek, but I don't want to focus too much on him. I wanted to make this in dedication to Deidre and keep the focus on her. There is a Facebook page up in honor of Deidre Harm that is still active and still seeking answers. I believe that is run by her friends. I think it is so great that they're keeping this going and keeping her memory alive. I never met her. I haven't been to Wisconsin Rapids, and she's still touched my life in some way. They do, however, ask people to be respectful about what is posted on the page, and you would think that would be a given, but on the internet it never is. And to also refrain from any amateur sleuthing on the page. Really, I get the interest, but, be respectful. And Deidre's daughter especially is now old enough to be on the internet and see what is posted about the case and about her mother and about her mother's murder. The page does have a post clarifying some of the details from the ID Channel episode, which I found this very interesting. In fact, it may have been a little bit off, such as the age of Deidre's daughter when she went missing. I think they said she was 6 months old when she was 4 months old. I really wish that there was more out there and more I could share about this case and about Deidre. I wish there was any kind of resolution in this case. Unsolved cases really bother me. That's one of the reasons I'm most fascinated, is they really, really bother me. It's like a worst fear of mine. But it is possible that someone out there does know something. So if you do, please contact the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department if you have any additional information that you think they should know about. So thank you for joining me today and talking about this young Wisconsin Rapids mother and a case that's really close to my heart. Like I said, I've never met her. I didn't know her. I haven't been to there, but it touched me. Her case touched me. Seeing her picture all the time made me feel connected. And I hope that someone else can have a similar reaction that I did and feel connected to her and keep that alive and tell her story. Not just of her death, but of her life. And I would love to know more about her life and keep that alive.